Namaskar, if anyone has any questions, they can shoot now. Let me just check. There is nothing on this chat box though. Any questions?
Good evening, madam.
Yeah.
Will there be any such type of extension lectures on this particular subject? We would like to enhance our knowledge on it.
Yeah, the department, I think our Amrita Darshan Center is, it is a continuing effort. There are many micro courses being planned, and we will continue to offer such micro courses on related themes, IKS, Indian knowledge system. So I think you can just watch out on the Twitter handle of Amrita Darshana and also keep in touch with Ashwati and the organizers. So whenever there is a course related to this, you should be getting the notification for it.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else, please? If any questions are there.
I had a question. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my question to sir is very knowledgeable talk, but my questions were, do you think Boolean logic was, I read some theory that the British scientists had read some of Navya Nyaya, Indian logic, and that led to the development of Boolean logic that was later used in computing. And second thing, you quoted Oppenheimer and the Gita. So the Gita versus Kalo Asmi. So is the synonym for time death? And is that what Oppenheimer was thinking about? And the third question is, uh, were the Western scientists influenced by Kashmiri Shaivism in terms of recursion? So, or is it just too much extrapolation? Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. First, I'll answer the Oppenheimer question because it is simpler to answer. See, in Sanskrit, a root word has many meanings. For example, dharma, okay, can mean law in a particular context. It can also mean righteousness. It can also mean duty. It can also mean charity. Similarly, the word kala, one of the connotations that time is related to destruction, right? In time, everything is destroyed, that over a period of time everything disintegrates, and therefore one of the meanings of the word kala is also death, and therefore Shiva is also called Mahakala because he is the great destroyer. He is the great time that destroys everything. So in that connotation, I think Oppenheimer was not wrong when he says, "I have become death," etc. So that atomic explosion, was perhaps inspiring that a very destructive energy that came out of it. So he would have thought of that translation of death. Second question about this Boolean algebra, etc. See, there are many cases where there is a clear transfer of knowledge happening. For example, I showed you one book on ancient Indian science written by this Kerala scholar called George Joseph. Let me see. I can find that book and share it with you. Where, in a similar case, what you are saying, he talks about how the Kerala School of Mathematics and Astronomy, the some of these findings, went all over to Europe. I mean, they found their way to Europe. So he was able to trace that connection in his second book after he wrote this book on ancient Indian science. He wrote a second book particularly focusing on the Kerala School of Astronomy and Mathematics. So, like this, there are many such cases where the transfer of knowledge is happening. I think I just found the book. I'll just show it to you. Just hold on. Let me share it with you. So the book is called A Passage to Infinity. Okay? So in this book, he tries to, as I said, trace some of the developments of mathematics and astronomy in Europe and how this possible transmission would have taken place. So this is a very painstaking study, but it is also controversial in the sense it is debatable because establishing this connection this transfer of knowledge unless you have irrefutable data in terms of how the transfer of knowledge took place. It is very difficult to establish. Why? Because the transfer of knowledge can happen in various ways. For example, you take the language, for example. See, there is this theory that foreigners came, Aryans came, and gave us Sanskrit and all that. It has been refuted today. Why? One of the significant ways in which language dissemination, for example, can take place is through trade, also through peaceful migration. Also, it does not have to be always through invasion. So, to establish this connection of transfer of knowledge, to do that kind of a study, to claim that, let's say, somebody in Europe invented something or came up with a scientific idea and that it was borrowed from India, to claim that it was borrowed from India, the whole connection has to be well established. So, in the absence of such data, it is better to keep the debate open, right? Wherever we have such associations very clearly visible, then there is no problem, right? We do know that India had extensive trade relations. We did see in the case of, for example, the Arabic numerals, etc., that they traveled all over the to Europe. They were called Arabic numerals because the Arab traders took it to them. So, like this, even in the case of, for example, Pythagoras, there is a theory that he had come to India, studied some texts, etc. But again, these are difficult. The veracity of these claims sometimes is very difficult to establish. And what do we gain by, say, establishing in each and every case? At the beginning of this presentation also, I did make this point that as students of Indian science, it is better that we remain conservative and reserved when it comes to these, say, claims that are made, sometimes exaggerated claims that are made. Because wherever we have irrefutable hard data, we can say that we have it. But in other cases, if you are always trying to claim that all the knowledge that Europe had was borrowed from India, and we are always trying to establish an India connection, that is not a very healthy approach to things. Also, I mean, we don't have to claim that. And of course, where it is irrefutable, as I said, where there is a clear connection, there is no harm in doing it. But we don't have to go in search of it. This is my view. So, what we have to look at is, since we are students of science, Indian science in particular, how did the evolution of science happen in India, and what was its impact on Indian society? How did it travel? How did this knowledge go? That study has to be taken up in an academic way. Your third question about Kashmiri Shaivism. The Kashmir Shaivism is a very, very specific case where there were many universities, for example, in France, which used to study. I was hearing a scholar of Kashmir Shaivism who was mentioning this, that before the British colonization of India, aesthetics, when it was taught in some of these universities abroad, Kashmir Shaivism would also be part of some of these texts. But as India became a colonized country and we became a slave of the British, and our stature decreased economically, politically, so to say, we became a slave country. Some of these, references, etc., were kind of sidelined, or they were no more studied in these Western universities. So this is again a psychological problem that we see with cultures, that when we are economically prosperous, when we are strong, everybody looks up to us for leadership and everybody studies us. But otherwise, this notion comes in that if this country is a slave country, how is its culture going to be useful for us? And therefore, possibly some of these connections, India connections, which were openly celebrated in the pre-British era, gradually would have been abandoned or ignored later on. This is my view, but I'm not an expert on Kashmir Shaivism. And if you want, maybe I'll go into it. If you want to clearly see the connection between it to some of these studies that are done in the West, we can try and get some references for it.
Yeah, thanks, sir. I got your point that without validation, we can't go about with a jingoistic feeling. And
Yes.
to add to your other point, I think because China is economically powerful these days, so even Westerners try to attribute everything to China. So, for instance, we do not have definite proof of Admiral Zhang He's fleet of big ships. This is something I read in Mr. Venkatesh Rangan's book, that
Okay.
even the Chola fleets were quite big. So I'm not trying to claim any sort of jingoism, like everything originated in India. I just wanted your opinion. So thank you
Okay.
for your
Okay. Sure.
informative answer.
Sure. Any other questions? Otherwise, back to Ashwati.
Yeah, any other questions? Anyone? Or you wanted to comment anything?
Ashwati, you're collecting some feedback from the participants.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll
Okay.
share immediately after this. By tomorrow, sir, I'll share. And
Okay.
I'll also share it with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyone else? If there is no one else, shall we close the
Yeah, I
session?
think we can conclude the session with
Yeah. So, let me thank you, sir, for giving us such a, what do you say, a wonderful session on which gave us a bird's eye view on India's contributions in the areas of science and technology, and I'm sure that it had made all our participants aware or understand or comprehend how India's cultural. To thank all our dear participants for their enthusiasm in learning and understanding about Indian knowledge systems as well. So once again, thank you everyone. Sir, you want to add anything? I don't know like what happened.
That's it from my side. Ashwati.
Yeah. Okay, so let's all wind up the session with the Shanti Mantra. Om Lokah Samastah Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokah Samastah Sukhino Bhavantu. Lokah Samastah Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.